Great. So I think that we are now streaming. So I think we'll get going. So first of all, welcome everybody. I just want to say a sincere thanks to each and every one of you for making time of your schedule. There we go. And there's Susan's joining us as well. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning. Sorry for all the trouble.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you were able to connect. That's great. We've got the whole team ready to go here. Folks, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate your time. I know every one of you is extremely busy. You're dealing with all sorts of other challenges right now, but I just really appreciate your time and willingness to kind of come together and for us to be able to work as a team. I think that this is a really important signal to our community as well, that in spite of the big challenges that we're facing, that as a team, we're going to face these challenges head on. We're going to put our heads together. We're going to work as hard as we can and put together some strategies and some policies, some programs that are going to help businesses, help people get their jobs back and really get our economy recovering and rebuilding as well. So I just really want to say thank you very much for that. This is very much going to be an introductory meeting. So, you know, I know all of you, but you may not know each other. And so I want to take some time to have those introductions. But at the same time, we also want to hit the ground running. So we are going to try to throw a couple things at you, but I'm going to try to respect our time. So I know we've got until about 10 o'clock. So we're going to try to end right around there. And so we'll get through as much as we can, and then we'll continue from there. So I think maybe to begin, if we could just take a couple moments just to do some introductions. Again, since not everybody around the table may know each other. So I'll start. So good morning, Brian Patterson, Mayor of Kingston for the last 5.5 years. Really privileged to be able to work with each of you and looking forward to what we can do together. Lanny, why don't you go next?
Thank you, Mayor Patterson. Lanny Hurdle, CAO of the City of Kingston, officially started as CAO just in time, pretty much, for this COVID situation, a few months before, but happy to be here and work with all of you.
Excellent. Thanks, Lanny. Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Pater. I'm the owner-operator of Black Dog Hospitality. We started in the restaurant business with Shen Noir back in 2000. Didn't quite expect this for our 20th anniversary year, but so be it. I'm also the chair of the Downtown Kingston BIA and a former board member of Tourism Kingston, and have been involved in lots of local community steering committees, etc., mostly around the local food movement.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. Abba.
Morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Abba. I'm the owner of Shamir Day Spa. We have 2 locations, one downtown and one in the West End. I think we've been doing this for 7 years. Aside of that, I'm a chair of Tourism Kingston. I'm the co-chair of the Queen's Equity and Diversity Board. I volunteered at Youth Diversion for the past 20 years. I'm a member of the DBIA. Have 4 kids. Love being in Kingston and the community, and I really just want to have a place that has a future for our kids, is sustainable, and then we can have something so that we can continue to keep a legacy and keep Kingston the great town that it is. So happy to be part of this.
Excellent. Thanks, Abba. Over to you, Sean.
Hi, everyone. I'm the managing partner and owner at the Frontenac Club in Kingston. I'm the chair of the Regional Tourism Board for Southeastern Ontario. I'm also a member of another tourism board for Central Ontario. And then I sit with Tim and Abba on the Downtown Business Board, as well as on the Visit Kingston Board. So I'm delighted to be here and looking forward to helping in any way I can. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sean. That's great. Susan, over to you.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay now? Great. My name is Susan St. Clair. I'm the general manager of Cataraqui Centre. I have been working at Cataraqui since 1982, so for a few years. I've been general manager for about 25 years. We have our hands full right now. We have an interesting situation on our hands with never closed the mall before in our lives. So we're we're dealing with that. I'm a Kingstonian. I've lived in Kingston my whole life. My extended family are all in Kingston. It's a great opportunity, and I truly appreciate being part of this committee, and I look forward to making a valued contribution.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Susan. Tricia.
I'm Tricia Baldwin, the director of the Isabel Bader Center for the Performing Arts at Queen's. And I'm currently sitting on a volunteer committee called Lean Canada, where we're helping arts organizations across the country get back on their feet, because the arts and cultural industry is about a $54 billion industry, and there are major employment concerns that we're trying to deal with.
Sure. Thanks, Tricia. Anne, over to you.
Dan Corcoran, owner, manager, operator, Len Corcoran Excavating, lifetime Kingstonian, proud participant in 4 versions of the Big Dig in downtown Kingston. Thrilled to have that opportunity. Can currently represent the Kingston Heavy Civil Group in Toronto on the Ontario Sewer Watermen Association. Flattered to have received Brian's call, asking me to participate, and look forward to helping it where I can.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. It's great to have you. Pavna.
Hi, I'm Pavna Varma. I'm with the United Way in Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington. I moved to Kingston 20 years ago, never regretted it, love it here. It's a great city, and just look forward to working with all of you, bringing the social services perspective. I'm not sure if business people realize, but the nonprofit makes up about 8% of the country's GDP, and we have a lot of employees as well. So the economic recovery kind of ties back into the social recovery.
Absolutely, Pavna, and thank you for joining. The nonprofit sector is absolutely important as well. There's two other members of the team that I would like to introduce. First of all, after we announced the team last week, had some really good discussions with some of my colleagues on City Council. And we agreed it would be really great to be able not only to have business people and community leaders from different sectors, but also someone from labor, to be able to show business and labor working together to be able to address some of the the key challenges that our economy is facing. And I can tell you in those discussions that somebody who came highly recommended, and I've heard great things about him too. So Dave Doran, really great to invite you to the team as an additional member. So Dave, please introduce yourself to the group.
Thanks a lot. My name is Dave Doran. I'm an advanced care paramedic for the County of Frontenac and Health and Safety Co-Chair for Health and Safety Committee. Also executive board member for OPSU. I'm really looking forward to the tough work we have ahead of us, and thanks a lot for considering me for this team.
Excellent. Thanks very much. We also have a special advisor, and this gentleman is extremely busy. So I told him I'm not gonna ask that he join the group at regular capacity with all the meetings. I know he's got a lot of other stuff on his plate, but really appreciate his time to be able to offer perspective and advice, particularly as we work through some of the challenges that we're going to be looking at in the weeks to come. And so, Dr. Moore, thank you very much for sitting in this morning as well. Do you want to say a couple words to the group?
Oh, just honored to be invited. Thank you so much, Mayor. And I would see that part of my role, I am linked very closely to the health system, both primary care, long-term care, as well as acute care in our region. I can provide surveillance and epidemiology and an update on health system preparedness as we go through COVID-19 over the next year and a bit.
Excellent. I have no doubt that we will be drawing heavily on your advice and expertise of you and your team. So thanks very much for your support. We appreciate it. So folks, that's the team. The great part is that not only do we have a team, we've also got a great support network that is going to be working with us. And so I just want to mention a few people. We have Noor Maslum from KEDCO. She's going to be our administrative support. So she's the one who's going to be touching base with agendas, scheduling, and I know you've already been able to hear from her. Wonderful to have team support from both KEDCO and the city. So we have Ian Murdoch from KEDCO, Craig Desjardins from the city. These two gentlemen have been doing a great job on COVID response. Already a lot of stuff that has already been rolling out, and so we're really happy to have their support. Also, I have Amber Bryant-Peller from my office. She's going to be assisting and sitting in and helping, just even from a communication messaging front, so we can tell the community about all the work that we're doing as a team. We also have support from our business support organizations. So I'm delighted to have Karen Cross from the Chamber, who's going to be sitting in. We have Michelle Langlois from the Downtown Kingston BIA. We have Alison Mignot from Tourism Kingston. So Jen, just really appreciate not only your time, but also the support from your organizations, and really appreciate how we can continue to work together. So I hope I'm not missing anybody. I think that I've got everybody for introductions. So I think what we'll do now is I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about what I see as kind of the key roles and functions of the team. So you all took my call and you all were gracious enough to say yes. And so you're probably wondering, what is it you've gotten yourselves into? So I just thought that I would talk for a few minutes about that. Noor, I just have a slide, I think, that Amber and I put together. If you have that slide, are you able to just put that up? Excellent. So there's my first slide. So welcome to the team. If we can just move to the second slide. Excellent. So just a few points for how I sort of see this team, and a couple of introductory comments that I'd like to make. So first of all, the way that I would see the Kingston Economic Recovery Team is very much as a hub, right? You have myself, you have city administration, you have all of our business support organizations, and all of you representing key sectors of the economy, key viewpoints. And so I think by all of us working together, it's going to be a really good forum for sharing information, and then we can make, we can move to idea development, but informed ideas with the right data, with the right perspective, so that we come up with the right solutions, I think, that are going to work. So I think that's really the power, I think, of what this team is all about. In terms of how I see us operating, I see us very much as a steering committee. So all of you on the team are extremely busy. You have lots of other things to do with your time. We've got great staff at the city and KEDCO and our other business support organizations that are positioned, I think, to do a lot of the work. What we really need from you is, first of all, to identify the issues, to bring forward the challenges, give us the on-the-ground perspective and the intelligence that we need. Then as staff, of course, we can go and we'll work to develop different solutions and programs, and then we're going to bring them back to you. And then you're going to have a look at it and say, yeah, that works, or that you need to change that, or that's not going to work for this reason. And so it's very much going to be a cycle of dialogue that really will not only develop a program, but then refine it so that our initiatives will work well once we bring them forward. As I mentioned before, I'm keenly aware of how busy each of you are. So the goal is very much to be efficient and effective with the time that we do have in our meetings. What I'm proposing, at least to start, is that we would start with bi-weekly meetings. I think that there's a lot of stuff going on right now, a lot of things that we're going to have to tackle. And so I think if we could meet on a bi-weekly basis, at least to start, keep in mind that probably as time progresses and as things start to stabilize, we probably can meet less frequently. Ideally, this group will be flexible. So if we need to meet more often, or if we need to change schedules, that I'm certainly okay with that. But that, I think, is what my initial proposal would be if that's agreeable to everybody. What is it that I'm looking for from you? So again, as I've talked about, you each have unique sector level insights. If I can ask one thing, it's to be as open and honest as you can with the feedback, with the challenges, and quite frankly, on issues or initiatives or programs we bring forward. Like, please help us by being as honest as you can. If things aren't going to work, if there are challenges that we're still not hitting, please help us with that. And ultimately, if you can help us within your own sectors to advocate, to expand into your own networks. So not only would you have a perspective, say, from your own business or organization, but if you can kind of help branch out and just hear from others in your sector, I'm sure you're already dealing with that. If you can bring those additional insights to the table, again, that's going to help broaden the tent for us. And I think it's really, really going to help. And again, as we progress, I see us being able to even establish working groups that will be able to flesh out different issues. And so we're going to expand this tent. But if you can kind of help us to be able to do that as much as possible so that everyone has a chance to feel engaged on this team. The other piece I'm going to talk about is teamwork. So although each of you have expertise and I think a very keen line of sight for your own individual sectors, one of the things I would really like to be able to see is cross-sector collaboration. You're all very accomplished, very intelligent, smart, experienced people. And so even when we're talking about a sector that's not yours, we really want to be able to encourage that dialogue and discussion about, coming up with strategies that will work. And so we really, really want you not to hold back and basically be able to throw out your expertise in whatever form, whatever issue that we're discussing. I think the last thing that I will say is that this is meant to be a working group. So this is going to be far less formal than a council meeting. So please, if it's okay with everybody, how about a first name basis? So please, Brian's good. And if we're good, just to be able to dialogue on that. At one point, we're probably going to be able to have in-person meetings. For the foreseeable future, though, we're on Zoom. And so what I'm suggesting is just for the best flow of conversation, certainly at any point, if you want to jump into whatever we're discussing, just feel free to unmute yourself and make a point. If there's a lot going on, maybe just to keep things organized, no problem. If you want, just put your hand up and I'll just make note of you, and then I can just kind of help to direct traffic and facilitate the discussion. So I think that those were just a few of the comments that I had. I know that each of you, I think, have a copy of the terms of reference before. So Noor, thank you. I think that that's everything I need for the slide. If we can just bring everybody back so I can see them. And I'll just ask, before we move on, does anybody have any questions? Any questions of me about how this team will operate? Obviously, it's going to be a bit of an evolution, so we may have to learn a little bit as we go. But is there any burning questions that you want to fire at me? Okay, not seeing any, so I'll take that as a cautious, positive sign. So I think we're good to go. So at that point, I'm going to turn things over to Craig Desjardins from the city. He's going to present some updated data for us on just economic conditions, about what it is that we're facing. I think we all have some views from our own individual sectors and viewpoints. But Craig, if you're able to take it away and give us some background, that would be great.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll have to get used to trying to call you Brian, but we'll go with Your Worship. Owing to the nature of the sort of the informal nature of this first meeting and sort of a lack of a package, I haven't provided a sort of a formal report. I have prepared one. I was pulling data late into the evening last night to try and make it current. But didn't want to bombard everybody with charts and graphs. But happy to share what I've prepared out after this meeting. Certainly, one of the critical components of making any sort of response or economic response to the COVID-19 pandemic is the ability to have sort of timely, local and accurate economic information. That's always been a challenge not just for our community, but for smaller communities throughout Eastern Ontario. And it has been a major focus and a priority that's been identified at the regional level through the Eastern Ontario Leadership Council to try and figure out ways to gain access to data. Fortunately, we've been working really hard on this sort of priority over the last 18 months. And actually have access to some really interesting data sets that is proving invaluable to us. As we advance in our analysis, we've begun with looking at workforce development, workforce data, and the impacts that the pandemic has had on workforce. We're also looking at how it's impacted output and things like gross domestic product, but that work is still underway. In terms of the workforce impact, it's obviously been severe. You know, the Conference Board of Canada recently identified Kingston as one of the communities in Ontario that has seen some of the biggest impact. Certainly the most recent Statistics Canada Labour Force Survey would confirm that. And teasing that data and looking at actually Frontenac County, the bulk of that obviously is Kingston. Kingston has seen over the last 3 months almost 6,000 job losses, with the most severe impacts, not surprisingly, in the accommodation and food services, wholesale and retail trade, and the information culture and recreation or the creative arts. And that's certainly in terms of both numbers, but also in terms of percent decrease in total employment. Those sectors have been hit incredibly hard. The challenge, of course, is that the labor force survey only extends to data till April 20th. So we'll be getting the May data around the 10th of June. I don't expect it to be as bad as the April numbers, but it's certainly not going to be good. In addition to this data, we've also been able to access data that is almost real-time data, but this is job postings. And these are job postings that are filed electronically, so it doesn't include job postings that are word of mouth or in print media. And this data is collected and presented on a daily basis. So we have the last 30 days of job postings. What the data is showing in comparison to 2019 is a pretty significant drop. On the positive side, it's not zero. We're looking at about a 20% decline versus 2019 numbers. And the data is also showing that the type of job posts posted are requiring lower education requirements. They tend to have lower average wage. There's been a change in the most sought after job occupations in terms of what the employers are looking for, and certainly the length of the job posting. And again, we have that data that's it tends to be about 3 or 4 days removed. So, but it's still pretty current data. We're also working, as I mentioned earlier, with respect to gaining an understanding of the industrial output, the industrial requirements, and contribution of the various industry sectors in our community. And what's interesting is that the data is provided. It looks actually at in-region purchase versus imported purchase, and it's starting to point to something on the industrial side that Tourism Kingston and Kingston Economic Development have been advancing. The Love Kingston Buy Local campaign is the potential to explore how we provide local companies, regional companies, with the ability to connect with other suppliers in the region to shorten their supply chain for better supply chain security, but also to through this industrial buy local to improve employment in both organizations. So we're exploring that. We're exploring tools to improve that. But you can get a sense there's pretty significant import of purchases across most of the industries. This obviously is problematic as distance and borders become restricted. And companies can't get access to inputs and therefore can't produce their products and have to potentially lay staff off. So again, the data is there. We're working on having a better understanding of how this interrelates, which will inform some of the tools we create to provide support to industries. That's a very high level. As I said, I'll share the what I've written up and some of the data, but certainly the makeup of this economic recovery team will provide very valuable insights into some of the hardest hit sectors. Certainly happy to answer any questions. I know I've talked really fast and covered an awful lot, and again, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Thanks very much, Craig. So again, as an introductory meeting, I know Craig's actually prepared a report that he can share with the team for additional reading, and we'll try to have that so we've always got the data that we need. Are there any questions for Craig at this point? Okay. So Craig, maybe, oh yeah, Dan, go ahead.
So the statistics about the job losses, while Craig referred to them as being significant, as a percentage, is there a percentage comparison to support that it's significant or insignificant as compared to other places in Ontario?
So I actually don't have the Conference Board of Canada numbers. We do have a comparison for Eastern Ontario. The Frontenac County region has sort of the highest percentage change in total of employment over the last 3 months. It's decreased by 7.7%. If you add that to the sort of the pre-COVID unemployment rate, it would make for about an effective unemployment rate of between 13 and 15%. So pretty significant, certainly in terms of just raw numbers. 6,000 job losses over the last 3 months is the highest within Eastern Ontario, excluding Ottawa.
So you don't have anything more for across the province? I mean, 7.7 doesn't seem like that much of a shocker, but the 13% does seem like a real shocker. Not unexpected, I suppose, when we listen to across Canada and in the US, but across the province, you really don't have any data to compare us to?
We'd have provincial and national data. I wouldn't have sort of localized data to compare sort of London versus Kingston. I can certainly go out and have a look for that kind of information.
I mean, we are talking about a local impact. I understand that, but at risk of us getting caught on a fear-mongering train, we need to do what we can to help Kingston, but I always worry a little bit about us just doing a little bit too much fear-mongering, that's all.
No, that's fair.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay. So maybe at this point, this would be a good chance, following from Craig's discussion, kind of high level numbers, to hear from each of you. So, and I'm probably going to look to our 7 sectoral representatives to just give us an update and give us an update on the challenges, the issues, whatever. If you had to pick like a top, the 2 or 3 biggest things that you're grappling with, or however you want to package it for us, just to give us a line of sight into what's going on the ground right now. That would be really helpful. So maybe I'll just kind of pick and direct from there. So Tim, why don't we start with you, if that's okay?
Hi. Yeah. So I'm sure all of you are seeing a lot about the restaurant industry in the media these days, and all the uncertainty that's out there. We're facing a myriad of challenges. First and foremost, our business model is based on not social distancing. So our whole business model is based on busy rooms, turning over many times, welcoming guests, and lots of them throughout each service. So on a sort of high level perspective, I think a lot of people in the restaurant business are really concerned about the viability of the model in what is going to be the new normal. So that uncertainty is certainly felt, and I've talked to a lot of other local restaurant owners, and I think now that the fear and shock of what has happened is starting to fade away, the outlook is long term, and it's concerning. Even in the short term, how do we get open? That's, we're getting more and more information now, which is great. And it's great to see our local health board hosting a Q&A tomorrow for specifics on that. So we're kind of still a little bit in the dark as to what is going to be required. What is the next step? Is it just patios? Is it 50% occupancy? But I think, if there's any message that I can put forth, is that this is going to be a long-term battle for our industry. It's not like 3-4 months of support is going to see us through to the new normal. It's going to be 12-18 months, or until a vaccine is developed. I think that's really going to be the key factor to getting back to even close to what we're used to in sales. So our fixed costs remain the same, but if we can only seat at 50% capacity or less, then that becomes a huge challenge. So the industry is hard hit, and it's very uncertain as to what the path forward is.
Thanks, Tim. So I think what I'm hearing from you is we have to come up with a new model for restaurants that works financially, and also satisfies the public health guidelines that we know need to be in place, and just figuring out what that is. So that's great. Abba, how about we go over to you?
Sure. So with respect to personal care, obviously it's an intimate type of an experience. And so with respect to job loss, most spas had to lay off all of their employees because it's a one-on-one type of experience, and therefore that can't happen right now. I think the concerns are similar to Tim, is that, what does this look like from now till the next 2 years, or whatever that looks like? And then I think a lot of the emails I've gotten back from different service providers has to do with spas. And for example, I got one from a tanning person, and he was saying that they don't have an interaction with people. It's a one-on-one. They have rules and protocols that have already been in place for Kingston Public Health that both spas and personal care have to do anyways. And that he is saying that for him to be closed, it's hurting his model, and he's not sure if the rules that are broadly being applied necessarily apply to some of these sectors, because we already clean things, sterilize things, have to wipe things down as mandated by Kingston Public Health. And so I think the concern is that what stage will we be allowed to open back? And then what would be the rules associated with that? And how does that really differ from the kind of protocols that we would do before? And then the confidence in people that it's okay, given from what is being told by, the health sector. One messaging is like, stay home, be safe, don't go out and do things like that. But here we are in an environment where it's like a personal one-on-one type thing. Come in, join, bring a friend. And then also limiting kind of bridal parties or group bookings and that sort of thing. And what does that look like for this industry? So definitely, safety, what are the concerns? What is a standardized set of protocols that we should be using so that both our staff and client feel kind of safe? And then what does that look like? Because obviously there will be a range of feelings of people coming back in with respect to their safety and how safe they perceive it to be, though it's a very safe industry because of all the regulations that we do have. And then, just the longevity of it. How are we going to be able to maintain this, and how are we going to get the messaging across that we can kind of get people back in so that we can sustain our staff and our businesses? Because just as Tim said, we still have fixed costs that we have to pay. And if we can't get the people in to do it, then it's not really kind of a feasible thing to maintain. And then, yes, we're being offered, financial kind of help, but a lot of it is putting us more in debt versus kind of incentivizing or helping us so that we can see a way out of this. We don't want to get to a bubble where we're just delaying and deferring rent payments and things like that, because eventually we're still going to have to pay, right? So that's just going to make the impact worse later on. So just kind of looking to see what those steps and kind of what things are being put in place for a long period of time, because we're not going to go back to where we were 3 months from now, right?
No, that's very, very useful. And but do you know, like within like the personal services industry, is there a lot of, would there be a lot of variation in terms of like all those details you think that would be required? Like, is it to what degree would it apply across all types of personal services versus variation, say like in a spa versus other salons, for example?
I think it depends. So, for example, I gave the gentleman who contacted me, he owns a tanning bed, and so tanning room. So he was saying that their beds are sterilized. They don't have any contact with clients. They go into the room and then they're disinfecting after. And so he doesn't see why there's a need for his particular business to be closed right now. and this is going into their prime season. Like, you know, people like at this time, the sun is out, people like, we need a pedicure. So this is kind of our prime time. And I guess just coming up with solutions as to how we could kind of salvage whatever that may look like. And then I think, you know, as I said, we already practice those things. Everything is sterilized. We have single-use things. It's more the perception of what else we need to do, and, you know, making sure that people think and know that what we are doing is safe so that we can proceed to go on. And I think it, you know, yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Pavna, how about if you can give a perspective from the nonprofit sector?
Sure. So our agencies, the basic needs, food and shelter, is just phenomenal increase in food. For example, we've had 30 to 40% increase in demand. We're serving, all the agencies combined are serving collectively about 1,000 meals a day, which is much higher than ever before. The food bank is kind of stabilized, but they anticipate it'll get worse as people use up their savings in the fall and winter. There's declining revenue because not everyone's able to give. So again, you know, restaurants closed, so a lot of that food, recycled food, is not happening. That kind of stuff. So definitely, just from the United Way's perspective, we've invested about $1 million in the last 3 months just to keep agencies going, and some of the basic needs that have changed. So food costs, agencies aren't using as many volunteers. So staffing costs, just for safety reasons, they can't bring volunteers into a limited space. The cost of adapting services, a lot of technology needs, for example, with counseling. A lot of agencies have moved to phone or video counseling. A lot of strain and stress on the staff themselves, because this is a fragile community in itself. Self-care is not often practiced. So again, they're starting to see burnout. They're starting to see some staff, for example, in shelters, not wanting to work, but having to work. So staffing, fundraising is going to be a challenge. Most of the agencies relied on events. Much as you can do virtual adaptations, you're not going to get the same kind of revenue. And also we're seeing just a whole pressure on the system. Mental health is starting to creep up. So some clients were resisting the counseling by video or phone, but now they're starting to see a huge surge in need. And agencies are just struggling. They're not large enough to be able to manage for long. So again, a lot of government and United Way and other money is being parachuted in, but that's not forever. And we don't know what we'll see in a year's time. So that's what we're hoping to look at, how we can stabilize the sector. There may be some prioritization, a lot of additional, the coordination and collaboration is incredible. I think we need to build on that just so we can sustain the services, but it'll be in a very modified, collaborative way. They won't survive by themselves.
No, that's it's a perfect storm. On the one hand, probably the demand for these services has never been higher, and yet the revenue side, as you said, with fundraising, which I know is going to be a big challenge, you're getting punched from both ends.
Yeah,
I see that absolutely. Just so everyone knows, there's Pavna's also leading a social recovery team, which is bringing a lot of those agencies that are trying to tackle those issues. And so I'm sitting on that team as well, so that we can have coordination between both the economic and social recovery efforts, for sure. Susan, why don't we go to you next? I know that really unique challenges facing the CAT Center right now. Of course, we got the news yesterday that retail stores other than shopping malls are able to open, and of course that's still a challenge for you. So we really appreciate just your insight on how the mall is doing, and also just on the retailers that are in the mall as well.
Thanks, Brian. It's we have a two-tiered approach. We have a major facility that falls under one category, and then we have the intimate retailers that exist within the building. We've had a huge layoff of staff across the board, so we're looking to slowly reopen the shopping center when we're given the go-ahead. Yes, part of yesterday's announcement, or last week's announcement, allowed 3 of our stores to open, and but the rest of us remain closed. We're ready to reopen. We've had time to put together plans. but it's the consumer confidence that we are really concerned about, whether or not they're going to be comfortable coming back into our building. And then again, on top of that, every single retailer and how they're going to adjust to having limited numbers of people coming into the store and how we control that traffic. It's certainly a people issue for us. It is keeping everyone safe, keeping our staff safe, keeping our customers safe and comfortable. It's a new environment that there are so many unknowns. Every day our team meets and puts a plan together, and the next day the plan doesn't make sense. So we're thinking on our feet and trying to move forward. And as soon as we're given the go ahead to open, we really believe we'll certainly open with limited hours, and we will open slowly. There won't be a crowd at our door. We understand that and respect that. We have to gain that consumer confidence back. And again, as Tim mentioned, it's going to take time, and we're prepared for that. But it's unprecedented. We're just dealing with things as they happen and doing our best. So there are a lot of people who work in this building. It's very quiet in here, and it's very eerie, and it's very odd. But getting people to come back to work will it will be a better day. So thank you.
No, Susan, I appreciate that perspective. I remember when we spoke on the phone, we were talking about the number of jobs impacted. I think you said like minimum of 2,000. Mm-hmm. It's significant. So we're definitely going to watch for that. And again, if I see if maybe Dr. Moore can help us with creative solutions and options about how we're going to again hit that confidence issue with in terms of public health regimes would be replaced. That would be helpful for sure. Thank you, Susan. Tricia, why don't we go to you next?
Thanks so much, Brian. As Tim was saying, our model in the arts is very similar. We depend on audiences and to pay for our artists, and the artists are and arts workers are very vulnerable because it is a gig economy. And so with all the festivals being canceled, jobs just disappeared. So it's a very serious situation for artists and arts workers. I think one of the challenges is by the nature of what we do with subscription campaigns is what to do in the fall. And we don't have any information on the numbers that can congregate. We're trying to keep our artists and audiences safe, but we need more information on what to do in the fall. And we're working together on that. But it's very uncertain what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. On the silver lining front, we're all making great strides online and technology. The challenge with streaming is the economic model doesn't work as well. We have to fundraise to pay the artists, but that's a challenge. But there's tremendous work happening there. And the irony of social isolation is all the collaborations that are happening within Kingston and across the country. So a lot of people are talking and working together. We worked with the community, and now we've got a summer festival online with Skeleton Park Arts Festival and the Kingston Symphony members. But it's a lot of great collaboration is happening. So there's some very positive things. But if I was to say what we need to do is it's focusing on employment and for Kingston to be shovel ready in terms of all the economic stimulus funding for all sectors, including the arts, to advocate on behalf of Kingston. Because if we're shovel ready, we've got projects to go, then we can attract money from the province and the federal government into Kingston.
Tricia, that's really good feedback, and certainly appreciate the work that you've been doing with others. I saw the ads for the online music festival that's coming, and I think that again being out in front and then positioning ourselves for funding, I think that's really smart. So thank you for that. Sean, why don't we go to you next? Tell us about the challenges in the accommodation sector right now.
There, I think I'm unmuted now. Well, perhaps my time is not best spent doing that, because everything that has been said to this point applies directly to our sector as well. This disruption is going to cause a massive transportation transformation in the way we do business. It will call for a new model. We're built on personal service and hospitality. We're built on high touch. We're built on having people go into your private spaces to clean them. Some of those things are going to be advantages to us that we already have strong standards and cleaning regimens and well-established protocols. That helps us, no question. But we have some challenges relative to what that new social contract is going to be. We have challenges about what customer behavior, as Susan was saying, what's the new customer behavior going to be as it relates to travel and their desire to travel. Tricia's comment about uncertainty. A lot of my colleagues in the industry are wondering what it does look like. We have several hotels in our region that are shut down. Those that are operating well below what their break-even thresholds are. And I think sometimes, I've heard comments from people about, the business itself. The hotel business is generally a small business. If there's a brand on the outside like Delta or Holiday Inn or Travelodge, that doesn't mean that this is a large corporate conglomerate. More often than not, those are franchises owned by a local family or by a partnership like mine. So I think we have the same concerns. I will say though, that just in what everybody said, I've heard at least 8 or 9 opportunities for us to use this in a really transformational way. Things like improving local employment by shortening that supply chain. The coordination and collaboration, I agree, have been tremendous outcomes of this. So how do we leverage that into new opportunity? Food and shelter. I'm in the business of food and shelter. There's got to be a way that we can figure out how to provide food and shelter differently for those who are disadvantaged, at the same time providing an economic outcome for the Tims of the world and the Seans of the world and so on. There's got to be a way to do that. So I'm excited about that opportunity. And I think a lot of my colleagues in the local market, both in tourism and hospitality, are excited about what those new partnerships and collaborations could be. Just 2 other comments. One is a couple of times it's been mentioned that there's a social recovery and an economic recovery. I think they're the same. And I think that speaks to what that new social contract will be and how we look at care for others and how do we look at care for our colleagues and our business partners. Sometimes I think in the good times we take that for granted. So I think the social and economic recovery have to be hand in hand. And it leads me to, if I can be bold enough, I have been through this before, this kind of need for recovery before, nothing of course like this particular pandemic. But when I went through it, one of the things we recognized we didn't do from the beginning as part of the economic recovery was sort of to establish a set of guiding principles. And so I'd really be interested if that was something that we could spend some time developing in a future meeting. When I went through this before, we settled on very simple things like do no harm. Let's take the opportunity to create win-win agreements and in every chance we get. Let's not sacrifice the larger picture of the strategy for a short-term, win. So we developed those set of principles and they really helped us test the activities and the processes that we went through going forward. So that's just a thought from me. Thank you.
Excellent. Sean, thank you. Thank you very much for that. That's great. And you're right. I think what I'm hearing from the group is really how do we find these opportunities? How do we shift? How do we change? How do we address consumer confidence, which is something that we know is a huge issue. And I think we get consumer confidence, get a business model that works, address the public health concerns. And, there's going to have to be some sector specific work, but I think that's definitely one of the themes that I'm getting certainly from everybody around the table so far this morning. Absolutely. Dan, over to you. What's happening in construction? Dan, I just think you're on mute. Just need to unmute. There you go.
Sorry. I looked at my clock and I don't think we have long enough to give you the full rant. But I do feel that the construction industry is better off than almost everybody else that I've heard chat to this morning. And for that, as an industry, we're very thankful for the opportunities we've been given. Our industry typically is made up of, I'll call it older. The average age is like 50 years old. So it's an older group of folks. And we have these 30 years of established work habits. So when it changes, when there are mandated or legislated or regulated changes to how we go about our business or our day-to-day work, change has been really difficult for us. It's been a hard sell. We believe that the magic is going to be in coaching our workforce to understand why it's important to the individual, why it's important to them. We can listen to the medical community and talk about why it's important to all of us, but I think the magic is convincing the individuals about why it's important to them. And as a construction industry, whether we're in the excavating and sewer and water business like we are, or whether you're in a vertical building, it's all very exposed to the public. So people walk by on the sidewalks or around the building sites, construction sites, and become quasi experts on the construction industry's efforts at doing a good job or not. So we're really under the watchful eye of the public, which is a little bit of a challenge for us, I think. But I'm very thankful that the construction industry is back to work, and we're trying to manage if you're working in a trench someplace, it's really hard to stay 6 feet apart. So we have the challenges of you just have to wear masks when you're in a trench, and sanitizing the hand tools before you use them from one to the other is a challenge. But again, after listening to the group, I'm thankful for that we're having the opportunities. We're actually able to get to work. So for that, I'm very thankful.
And thanks, Dan. There's no question the construction industry is a big sector for us, and so just keeping that insight, and if you're able to help pull us along, then that's great. But we'll definitely keep our eye on those challenges for sure. So I'm looking at our time. I was wondering if everyone's okay, just to do a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to hear from Dave, just on the labor side. We've talked about consumer confidence, but I think there's also the piece about employee confidence that workplaces would like to hear Dave's perspective, and then I'd like to hand things over to Lanny to at least introduce a first discussion on property taxes. Again, we're not going to go through that full discussion today, but just give Lenny a chance to present that, and then we can maybe find a forum to be able to explore that further. So Dave, why don't you give us a perspective from labor side?
Yeah, so in all the sectors that I represent, we're definitely seeing an increased stress in the workplace, from just the increased workload of having to don and doff PPE, but also from the perspective of not knowing whether there is going to be adequate PPE from week to week. In healthcare, there's a lot of issues with supply chains. And when services are able to acquire appropriate PPE, there's definitely an increased cost involved for the business. So those supply chains have gotten a bit better in the last couple of weeks, but there still definitely is issues with delays and not being able to receive the appropriate PPE that the employer has ordered. The workers have been showing up to work every day and are proud of the job that they're doing on the front lines, and I think have been doing a great job under the circumstances. We're starting to see some layoffs in different sectors. Education is one of them in the college sector. They're not necessarily being classed as layoffs, but contracts not being renewed and things like that. So there's going to be a spin-off to the economic harm that's going to do down the road. But basically, that's it, I guess, for now.
That's great, Dave. Thank you very much for that. I think your comments about PPE, I think, are really good. And your comment of the education sector, true. I also was surprised, but you're right. We have seen that as well. So thank you for bringing that to the table. Lanny, over to you. If everyone's okay to go just a few minutes past 10, want to give Lanny a chance to give you a flavor of some of the things that we're discussing at the city, but certainly one of those is property taxes. So Lanny, take it away.
Thank you, Brian, and I'll try to for today. So as all of you probably are aware, our first property tax installment actually was due and payable before the COVID situation hit us. So most people have actually gone ahead and paid that first installment. What we did do though is we did waive penalties and interest for any late payments. So anybody that wasn't able to pay, make that payment, we did waive those. What we have recently also announced is the deferral of our second property tax payment, which would typically be due in June. And we've deferred that for everybody at this point. But we wanted to actually take some time to really look into which sectors or areas may actually require more support. We know that some have not been impacted as much by COVID-19, and those are quite capable of paying, which they should be as we proceed through our tax payments. But we also recognize that there are a number of sectors, probably especially in the food and beverage, I'm going to say food and beverage, accommodation, and retail probably that have been hit quite hard with COVID-19 that could benefit from different type of incentives when we're thinking about tax payments. So I will tell you that right now we are not necessarily looking at either a reduction or cancellation of taxes. I'm sure you've all seen the news that the city itself does have financial challenges, which we'll be discussing tonight with council. But we are looking at various incentives in terms of deferrals, in terms of continuing to waive any penalties or interest for late payments, all of those things we are looking at. I think what would be probably helpful is if we could have maybe a smaller group from this recovery team, a few people that I could work with and get some advice from in terms of the sectors that have been hit pretty hard and would be required to pay property taxes. I think that's, for us, that's the key. And maybe take that offline over the next couple of weeks, do some work and bring some options back to this group.
Thanks, Lanny. That's great. Is that agreeable to everybody? So if you're interested in being part of a sub working group with Lanny just on the property tax issue, if you can, I'm just trying to think what would be the easiest way to do this. Maybe if you could connect with Noor. So Noor, if you're okay to kind of just take any feedback, and then what we'll do is we'll help set that up, and then again we'll do that work. I expect we're probably going to do this. We're going to identify an issue. We might have a discussion, and then we may decide, okay, it needs more work, and so we'll set up a subgroup and then bring it back to the full group for vetting and discussion. If that's agreeable, that's great. I've certainly taken notes. I think we've got a number of issues to work on. So maybe what I'll do is I'll work with Lanny and staff, and we can go from there. Yes, Tim.
Just quickly on the property tax thing, as we've seen with the CECRA program, it requires landlord participation. So I really hope that there's representation from that group, because often it's the tenant doesn't control the whether the landlord takes it or accepts a deferral or not. So hopefully there'll be some input there.
I think that's a great suggestion, Tim. What we might do with some of these sub-working groups is we might take a couple of you, if you're available, and then we can bring in some other people. I think we often may want to do that, and then we'll bring it back to the group. That's a great suggestion. Absolutely. Anybody else? Any suggestions, input on either the property tax or anything else that we've hit? Certainly, I think in the public health piece, I think we definitely need to think through about how are we going to reimagine that piece and work through those details. So I'll have some conversations at a staff level on that, and we'll work on an agenda for our next meeting in 2 weeks where we'll really kind of bring some issues up for discussion and feedback from the group. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add at 10:03? Tricia.
Just the mechanism for communication on public health, on how many people are allowed to gather within Kingston, just that, what's the mechanism for that ongoing communication? I think that would be really helpful.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. We will definitely do that. And again, I think that speaks to the broader confidence piece too. Is not just the information, but then the backing and confidence from public health that this is okay. And then we'll definitely work on that for sure. Folks, thank you. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure I've spoken to all of you on the phone. It was great to see all of your faces around the Zoom screen this morning. Thank you very much for this. Again, we're going to go do some work at a staff level. We'll be in touch. We'll connect with you to set up another meeting. We'll send it an agenda and a package any material ahead of that. But otherwise, thank you very much for your time. Hope you guys have a great day and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.